It's not indicative of Trey Holly whatsoever. I'm not saying that there's not a chance that Trey Holly isn't here for the 2024 season. I think that what I told you a while back in our Trey Holly segment, which basically, in essence, guys, in my lifetime and in my experience, having 7 eyewitnesses say the same exact thing, normally 9 times out of 10 makes it a lie. Everybody has different accounts of what happens, which I think makes this whole Trey Holly thing a little bit more believable on his side when it comes to him saying that he did not fire a weapon. The issue is I don't know when he gets that day in court. Now, what could happen, maybe the victims come forward and say that is not what happened or whatever. I was told through somebody that maybe the police potentially asked a victim who was on narcotics, like pain medications, asked, did Trey Holly shoot you? And she said yes. That's leading. That's very, very leading, that question. So I don't know. What I'm trying to get at here is LSU knows more than I do about this situation. I have not necessarily dug into the situation on his status. But what I will tell you is it's going to be very telling on what they think about the Trey Holly case if they don't go get a running back or at least attempt to go get a running back. In the spring portal. Maybe they move somebody to running back. I don't know. BK told Wilson Alexander that they got some walk-ons in that position. I don't know. Chris Dreamless, JOD, with a $5 super chat says, What's up, Chris? Thank you, my man, for the super chat. We do need to get some spring, and that's a part of spring. I think it's a part that we need to talk about. So we've heard a lot, or we have talked a lot from other people, or talked to other people. What do they think about spring? Carter, Wilson, Zach. We've had a lot of guests that cover LSU and have gotten their opinion on what to expect. Now that we are here on the Thursday before spring starts, which we will be out there a week from today when the doors open, there are a couple things that I want to see coming out of camp in no specific order, right? Like no specific order whatsoever, because I do think that the offense, which by the way is not going to change schematically, it's not going to change. You do have personnel that will turn over, but you've seen a lot of that personnel stay the same. You got Caleb Jackson in the backfield with Garrett Nussmeier. You got 4 of your 5 offensive linemen returning. You got Chris Hilton, Kyron Lacey returning. Now you're adding CJ Daniels, okay, which is kind of funny that you add in another Daniels from the portal on offense, but you add in CJ Daniels from Liberty. How quickly does he pick up on this new offense that he is running? A very explosive wide receiver along with Aaron Anderson and Xavion Thomas. I do think coming into the spring, the offense is going to have a lot of times, especially early, of dominating this defense. I don't think it's fair for us to go out here and see what's going on this spring and look and see what's happening with this defense and come to the conclusion that this will be what we will have going into the year, because you've got so many things that you have to work on. You got to work on install. You got to work on communication into a new defense. So many things will take hold this spring defensively. I don't know if there's not a better offense to go up against than this one, because there's so much coaching that goes on in a year one of a new coordinator. So much has to go into terminology, where guys are going to be lined up, and how they're going to do things. I think because of that, it does make the defense better, because you're going to have a lot of mistakes, and I think Blake Baker is the right man to correct those mistakes. I don't think he's going to be very passive, that if a guy makes this mistake, pull him and put someone in there to go in there and make the play. What I am looking, though, from the offense, number one, is just continue to do what you've been doing. I don't even really much mind trying to get Caleb Jackson some touches and getting him into the flow and working with him solely, because he could be and is talented enough to be your RB1. He needs to get get a little bit more up to speed, because he is going to be your guy going into the year, that you don't force feed him a little bit early while trying to keep him off the ground, while trying to keep him injury-free. Another thing here, too, is who are going to be your guys outside? I think you got more talent than – guys, I just got to be real. I mean, you got a lot of solid dudes in that wide receiver room. I know a lot of people have been down at times, myself included at times, on Kyron Lacy. But, man, the leap that he made last year I thought was massive. He made some big-time plays in big-time moments. He also had some big-time drops in some big-time moments, specifically against Florida State. But can this be the year that Chris Hilton breaks out? Can this be a year where you utilize another guy that's not Malik Neighbors that can be explosive in the slot? Aaron Anderson, Xavion Thomas, who had some good things that he did last year at Mississippi State, had actually a pretty good year considering how bad they were offensively all around. I just think you got so many weapons, so many things to play with. It's Joe Sloan. He's going to want to make a point in all this. I don't think it's fair for us to really judge early in the spring, even maybe this spring alone, on the defensive side of things. Let's go over to the defense, because I do think that they will be the topic of conversation this entire offseason. What I do think, you remember when all of you had to do a science fair project? Give us a thumbs up in the chat if you remember having to do a science fair project. And you remember when you did that science fair project, you had to make a hypothesis. I'm about to make me a hypothesis. 2 of them. I think coming out of spring, the 2 biggest storylines that we're going to have, okay, is how good this offensive line is, and how Blake Baker's defense is going to be multiple and they're going to send pressure. Those are the 2 storylines we're going to walk away with. On the last day of February of a leap year, in the second month, on the 29th day in the year 2024 of our Lord, those will be the 2 storylines. Neither one of them, outside the offensive line, is really what's probably going to lead you to where you want to go. Now, what do I mean by that? Your O-line obviously will lead you where you need to go. What I mean is I think you have just as much talent at other places on that offense. None bigger than the O-line, though, but you still have a lot of talent. The one thing that I'm looking from the defense this spring under Blake Baker, coming in from Missouri, his second stint at LSU, I want to see just flashes, right? Like I want to see flashes and plays from guys. Maybe this time last year, we said to ourselves, like, damn, man, was that Major Burns? Like, hey, dog, hey, guys, the media standing on the sidelines like, hey, guys, was that Major Burns? Huh. Hey, guys, was that Harold Perkins that just blitzed in the inside and got a TFL for loss, and Baker just schemed this up? Those are just the things I want to see, because I don't think that they're prepared or ready for what is coming with them. I said the same thing last year with Jaden, said the same thing last year with this offense. I fully agree and am replicating my hypothesis of that this offensive line is going to dominate at times against this D-line. Number 2 of this, I just want to see you communicate that you're in this install, that if a motion goes across or they're come out in a certain formation, that you're communicating on getting into the right place. And if guys aren't in the right place, getting them in the right place again when the play is run the next time. Because I fully expect LSU to come out here, okay, and like Wilson said, be under center, run some power game, run some stuff under center, get the play action going and the boot action behind it. I don't know if we're going to have the same type of offense. I think we will have well, how do I want to say it? You will have some different wrinkles. That is for sure. I just want to see flashes, and I want to see communication that guys have been coached up and are ready to take on a new defensive scheme. Because if you see those two things, you have a lot of promise going into the fall that, look, man, through summer workouts, you're getting things, you're working on everything you built off in the spring. That's how you want to see a good install in place. Whew. There's nothing like a good bottle of water. I have hope for this defense yet. I have hope. Blake Baker, come and save the Bayou City, man. I think you got some pieces, man. Look, I'm gonna be the one that comes out and says it that nobody wants to say. I think you got some really nice pieces. How do I want to say this? I think guys were played out of position last year. I think that Matt House couldn't stop a 7-on-7 flag football, fourth grade passing scheme. I think Matt House got bailed out in year one by 4 super seniors that knew how to play football and have seen so much and experienced so much that the NFL type of stuff that Matt House tried to run, those guys like Jared Bernard Converse on the outside saved him. Okay. I think a guy like BJ Ojolari saved him because BJ got so many sacks at very critical moments that when he didn't have the experience, he failed. I don't think you're going to have that here. I think that it is very difficult for a guy like Matt House who does not mold the culture well enough to get guys to buy in. Here is one little tidbit that I am going to leave you with when it comes to some sourcing. All right. There has been from this team defensively more buy-in to Blake Baker than there ever was buy-in to Matt House. Even I think in 22, actually, I don't think. I know. Guys didn't buy into Matt House in 22, but they tolerated him because things were working. It did not stop the bad culture that he brought with him when some things went bad, especially this year. At no point under the Brian Kelly regime has, in my personal opinion, from things that I've heard, had the collective community and unity like they have right now. Does that stop them from giving up 40 points to USC and on September the 1st? No clue. No clue. But there is buy-in. Just how much does that buy-in work? We will see. All right, last point here about spring. We'll get to some the baseball weekend here. Garrett Nussmeier. So I have been relatively quiet on Garrett Nussmeier, mainly due to the fact that it is of my experience, like the Miles Brennan stuff, like the Jaden Daniels stuff, that almost 900 episodes have taught me. Every time you talk about a quarterback, people are going to argue with you. But tonight is the time I think we need to talk about Garrett Nussmeier. Garrett has to build off what he did at the end of last year. What we saw from Garrett Nussmeier last year was, a lot of people walked away from it. The big arm, throwing the ball down the field, having some electric plays offensively. None of that did I walk away in the game against Wisconsin knowing that he could not accomplish. Because we always knew that if he started connecting, if he started putting the dots together, those were going to be a lot of the big times things that he did. Let me tell you what I want to see more of this spring. It's the small things, because I think he does all the explosive, high dynamic stuff so well. Throwing the ball down the field to Kyron Lacey to start off a 90-plus yard drive to win your team a ball game. We knew that he was going to be able to do that. We still know that he's going to be able to do that. What I want to see more of is like when you're in the red zone and you were down 14 and on a critical 2nd and long, you're behind the chains. You need to make a big play to get some tension, get more into the red zone for a scoring drive. That when all 4 receivers are running go routes and everybody is backing out to cover all the go routes, you dump the ball off to Caleb Jackson and let one of your athletes go and make plays. That is the, where it's almost the complete opposite of Jane Daniels a year ago. The complete opposite with Jane Daniels a year ago was, hey, we need to see him push the ball down the field. We know he's electric with his legs. We know that he will check it down to, just put the change. If he wants to take that next step, he's got to fire it down the field. It is the complete opposite with Garrett Nussmeier. He is Brett Favre gunslinger-esque. He is going to fire the ball down the field at all costs at times. I want to see him hit checkdowns. I want to see him getting right protections. I want to see him throw maybe the out route for 7 yards. Continue what he did against Wisconsin, because if he does that, I think the sky is the limit for him. Now, Garrett is tied for 3rd in the Heisman Trophy odds at plus 1,200. What do we think about that? He's there with guys like Jackson Dart, who's going to be now a 4-year, technically, a 4-year starter. He's up there with guys, who else was up there as well? Wasn't it Shadur Sanders? Up there with Shadur Sanders. Up there with a lot of those guys. The reason that he is a first-time real true my-season starter is up there with all of them is because you saw what he did against Wisconsin and managing things. I know we talked about Cam Newton earlier in the week, right? And mainly we talked about Cam Newton because of the fight that he got in. But Cam Newton on his podcast makes a very good point, and it's about game managers. Now, you're going to have to listen to what he means by game manager. I'm not going to explain it to you. There are going to be times, and there are times with every single quarterback on the face of the planet that wants to win something significant. You actually saw Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes do this twice in the Super Bowl this year. You saw them do it a year ago or 2 years ago when they won the Super Bowl. You got to dial it back and let your players make plays. And if he continues to build off of that, then he's going to be fine. He's 100% going to be fine. Might be more than fine, man. I do have a lot of faith in him. He is going to make – here's another thing, too, that I want to prepare everybody on. He is going to make mistakes. He is going this year to make critical mistakes. The question becomes is, can the team around him rally enough to bail him out of those situations? Every quarterback has situations where they make the wrong play at critical times. can the defense around him be big enough and strong enough to pick him up when he makes them? Kind of like, again, what happened with Wisconsin, and you got a big sack from Mekhi Wingo that got you the ball back. Like the critical stop to holding Wisconsin to a field goal to get you back into the game. Those are the types of things that we talk about. All right. Make sure that we don't have any more super chats here. No, but if you do send in a super chat, we will read it. If you want your comment, thought, question, concern, we do have Ask Blake here, so you